So in 2 days' time, on the 26th of October, 2025, the president-elect Dr. Patrick Herminie will be sworn in as the 60th president of the Republic of the Seychelles. So I'm sure he's very excited about that, and not just him, but his team, as well as the people of the Seychelles, must be very excited about that. And I personally will be watching the inauguration ceremony. I can't wait to see the man draped in authority, and this is what I like to see. So it was great to see that the elections were peaceful. It's always nice to see peaceful elections within the African continent. I mean, we recently saw Dr. Lazarus Chakwera in Malawi that lost power to the political veteran Mr. Peter Mutharika, the 85-year-old man that bounced back into power, and that was great to see. So we've got other elections coming up as well. I think we're still waiting for results from the Cameroon elections. The elections, I think, took place on the 12th of October, and we are still waiting for the results. Now, we've got the 92-year-old man, Mr. Paul Biya, who is hoping to win his 8th term in these elections. Then we've got the opposition leader, one of the main opposition leaders, Mr. Issa, that already declared victory, and so we don't really know what is happening. And if we go to the eastern part of Africa, in Tanzania, things are not looking good as well. Elections are still ongoing, and the elections are very contentious at the moment. So we've got the opposition leaders, some of them that have either been disqualified or they've been totally banned from running. So this has rattled the Gen Z, and we've recently seen some protests as well. Going back to Madagascar as well, we've got a new leader in Madagascar. So this is all about the politics. So in a nutshell, this is what has currently been happening in terms of presidential elections on the African soil. So one interesting thing about Dr. Patrick Herminie is that the man has not been sworn in yet, and yet he's already hitting the headlines. So the man was recently featured on BBC, which is the British Broadcasting Corporation, and he was saying that he would hold the tourist development on the Assumption Island. So this tourist development, this is a deal that was made between the Seychelles and the Qatar to build at least 40 luxurious villas on the Assumption Island. Now, for those of you that may not know what the Assumption Island is, I'm sure the people of the Seychelles, this is a term and an island that they're so familiar with, and almost everybody knows what is happening with the Assumption Island. So the Assumption Island is basically one of the tiny islands within the Seychelles. So the Seychelles is basically divided into two. So you've got the inner circles of the islands where the capital city is, Mahé, Victoria, and all the inner cities. And then you've got about 73 tiny islands that make up the outer islands. And this is where this Assumption Island is actually based. There's no doubt that there's so many unanswered questions on this deal between the Qatar and the Seychelles, and what this video will attempt to do is to try and scratch a little bit on the surface on what really went wrong and why people feel as though this deal was not a good deal. So this Assumption Island, for many years, it was quiet, it was untouched, it was distant, almost forgotten. But recently, this tiny island became the center of a national storm because of the way the deal was made. A lot of people thought that this deal was not transparent. You know, there's a lot of things that were hidden. And we saw Mr. Weverum Kalawan at every given opportunity defending himself, defending his position, defending his decisions, whether it's in a personal capacity or even as a government, as the LDS, defending their position on how the deal went. But there's been a lot of criticism, obviously, for the reasons that we shall discuss in this video. Now, this deal between the Seychelles and Qatar was a 70-year lease on this particular island in question, which is the Assumption Island. And the Seychelles government only got $20 million as the down payment for it. Now, if you really think of it for a second, $20 million down payment for a 70-year lease if you do the math there, and if you just think about it, now we're talking of an island that is virgin. You're talking of an island that has got its ecosystems that is untouched, a very rich piece of land. Because 20 million down payment as the initial payment, with no clear terms of when the remainder of the balance was going to be paid. So this is where a lot of controversy kicks in, and I think this is where a lot of questions were raised, and it raised a lot of red flags to say why weren't some of these things done properly. So I mean, I do not blame Dr. Patrick Herminie for halting this whole project until they get to the bottom of all of this. Now, this 20 million down payment was processed through a company called the Assets Group based in Qatar. So like I said, the whole idea was to build 40 luxury villas and a private runway for executive jets. And as we speak currently, people were already working, probably even during the campaign election. But as from obviously from the time Dr. Patrick Herminie made that announcement, obviously he's now stopped all this development until further investigations are properly done. When Dr. Patrick Herminie was interviewed on the BBC, he particularly said, and I quote, "This is peanuts for paradise." So he feels as though the Seychelles did not get a good deal as a result of it. And I don't blame him personally, because if you really look at it, what can $20 million buy you in the West, particularly in the United Kingdom or even in the United States? It's not much. So if you're thinking of buying a mansion or a castle within the United Kingdom, £20 million will probably get you a big castle in an exclusive area, but probably even with limited space, as we've seen in this picture over there. And then in the United States, you might get a similar house as well, or a mansion if you like, but it won't be something extraordinary. Now, I think that $20 million is what was used in exchange of an entire island, a virgin island with its ecosystems intact. I don't think that is justice that was done to the people of the Seychelles, and whoever was behind this kind of deal really needs to start thinking of answering these questions diligently and start finding answers, to be honest with you, about what they were really thinking about this deal, to be able to exchange the $20 million in exchange of a 70-year lease without clear terms of even when the next payment would be paid. And so this is where a lot of people have raised concerns and raised red flags over this particular project. $20 million. Nobody can really say where it was meant to go. Was it a payment straight into the government's account, or was it money they could use as a government as they wished? Or was it supposed to fund conservation to protect the very island now under threat? So there's no transparency according to critics. There's no full record of the entire deal. So this is where it gets really, really complicated, because like in every business deal, when you sign a contract, say you put a down payment on a vehicle, it has to be very clear, or on a house or whatever deal it is, it's got to be clear. So when are you paying me the rest of the money? So that has to be written in clear black and white. There's got to be some kind of a transaction and a follow-up transaction to say, well, I've made a payment of 20 million US dollars, and so within the next couple of years, or within a specified time frame, this is how much the rest of the money will follow, and on such terms. However, when we look at this deal, it lacks a lot of expected things as a business transaction would normally have. Now, some reports mention an alleged $50 million in value, but no one, not even Parliament, has seen the full agreements. Now, it's been very hard to try and find specific details as to when the next payment following the 20 million down payment would be paid. Now, for somebody like myself, just a simple individual, I think the first question that I would be asking, the first thing that comes to mind is to ask who was behind this particular deal. You need to have a research, a study behind it, and that particular group, whatever it is, needs to make recommendations to the government, and only then does the government make the decision to either go ahead or not go. So in this case, we've got what is called as the ICS. So the ICS is the one that made recommendations and gave the government of the Seychelles a go-ahead over this project. Now, these are the people that appear in official reports. They speak on behalf of conservation, and they shape how people understand the environmental risk. But the question is, who really are they? Who are the ICS? Okay, that's the question that a lot of people need to be asking. And even most of the information that I obtained for this video came from a document that was written by the ICS themselves on the 13th of May 2024. Now, this document was written and published in the public domain for public comments, and it was basically assessing the environmental impact on that particular island should this project go ahead. So the ICS is a non-government organization. Like I say, it is registered locally in the Seychelles, but its lifeline runs through London. So it operates a UK registered charity called the Island Conservation Society UK. So the ICS Seychelles has got a sister company which bears the same name in the United Kingdom that is registered under charity 1103702. So that's where the donations from global donors come from. For example, the majority of the donations come from the WWF, they come from the EU, they also come from private philanthropists, and all these monies are collected before being transferred to the Seychelles. So we've got the ICS UK, which collects all this money from all these donors, that works hand in hand with the ICS Seychelles over the other side. Now, it's worth noting that these particular NGOs, there's a charity on the other hand, which is the one in the UK, and the NGO on the other side. These are under two separate state laws and they work independently of each other. But it's worth noting that the two cannot survive without each other. So the Seychelles branch of the ICS would not survive without this particular funding from the ICS UK. And the ICS UK wouldn't be in existence without the actual cause, which is the environmental cause or the conservative cause or the agenda in the Seychelles. So let's look at the turning point. So what is the turning point in this case? So the turning point is exactly what Dr. Patrick Herminie, the president-elect of the Seychelles, has done. So he's put a halt to this whole project, and which is a good thing. That's a very good starting point. And the reason for that is to investigate and see whether this deal remains a fair deal for the people of the Seychelles. So this sends a very strong signal to the contractors, to the people involved, and I think even the initial people that got involved in this particular project, this must send shivers down their spine. Whether it's the ICS, whether it's the outgoing president, Mr. Weber Kalawan, I'm sure he must be thinking, what is really happening in this particular deal? And I mean, I'm not suggesting there's any foul play in this particular deal, but to be able to hold this project and investigate and see whether this is a fair deal, that is plausible and it's a very good starting point. So in closing remarks, what can we say about this? So we've looked at different things. We've looked at the reason why Dr. Patrick Herminie has halted this particular deal. We've looked at the reason and the rationale behind halting this particular deal, which is to investigate the whole project. And it's unbelievable because the Assumption Island is only a very tiny small island in the outer skirts of the Seychelles. However, the noise this particular island has created is unprecedented because the world is watching, people are following the story. I'm following the story as well with interest, and it's good to see where this is going to end up. And we cannot wait to watch Dr. Patrick Herminie on the 26th of October 2025, which is in a couple of days time. So if this is your first time coming to this channel, will you kindly subscribe so we can touch base and update each other on this particular inauguration ceremony and beyond as well. So until then, speak soon.